Hello, I'm Chief Russ Kerbow for the City of Lewisville, and I produced this video to help answer some concerns one might have about the new open carry law that goes into effect in January. So on January the 1st, the Texas House Bill 910 goes into effect, and what that takes away is the distinction of concealed in connection with the handgun license. So what that means is now a person that's got a handgun license can choose to carry their weapon concealed, so behind a shirt or under a jacket, or they can actually carry it out in the open for anybody to see. But it must be in a belt holster or a shoulder holster in order for them to do so. So that's got several concerns, I'm sure, that have been arisen by community members and also our city employees. I want to address both of those today if I can. So for the community, what does this mean to you? Yeah, it's likely that you're going to see somebody walking around during normal hours in the grocery store or out and about and carrying a weapon on their hip in a belt holster of some kind or even in a shoulder holster. And so does that mean you should panic or get all excited? Well, the simple answer is no. We don't think there's any cause for concern or any cause for immediate panic unless that person is doing something that would otherwise draw attention to themselves, that where you may or may not call the police anyway, whether they're armed or not. If they're creating a disturbance or committing other criminal acts or doing up something else really extraordinary out of the ordinary, then yes, you may want to pick up the phone and call 911 so that we're alerted. Otherwise, if they're just simply carrying in a belt holster or shoulder holster and they're going about their normal business, not bothering anybody, that really shouldn't be a call to the police. Now, having said that, we know that the dispatchers will get some phone calls from folks, maybe just questions in general about the open carry law, or they may see somebody that's out there openly carrying and have a question about that. So they'll be asking the caller several questions. They'll be trying to determine if they can tell if there's the weapons in a belt holster or shoulder holster or not, and what are the kind of behavior that the person's exhibiting. Are they doing anything that would really cause us to want to come and contact them whether they're carrying a gun or not? Because those situations do arise. And so we'll be instructing our dispatchers to try to gather that information and provide that to a police officer. Now, a police officer may or may not respond to that call. If the call taker simply determines that all they're doing is carrying out in the open, then we may not have a reason to send an officer by there to check on them. But if we do, the officers will be armed with the same information and the same training. They're going to go out and they're going to monitor the individual, and if all they're doing is acting somewhat normally, but just happen to be carrying a weapon on their belt or in a shoulder holster, then they're not going to do anything. There's no reason for us to go contact the individual to try to identify who they are. There's no reason for us to go and try to disarm the individual. There's no reason for us to go to try to determine if they're a handgun license carrier or not. Again, unless they're doing something else apart from just carrying in a belt holster or a shoulder holster, then there's no reason for police intervention here. And that's what we're going to instruct our people to do. Now, city employees who are working in our various city facilities, what does this mean for you? What can you expect about the open carry law? Well, it's going to be the new Texas norm, as we've referred to it in law enforcement, as we've been preparing for this day for a number of months. And we know that people are going to normally do day-to-day business. They're going to show up in the grocery store or at the post office, or they're going to show up and pay a water bill, for example, and they may carry in the open. And that's going to be just normal. And if they're doing nothing else other than that, if they're just otherwise taking care of business as usual, then there's no reason for you to be alarmed. We certainly don't want any kind of panic on anybody's hands or any kind of real concern about safety from that standpoint. Again, each situation is going to be different. If you observe other activities or other behavior that gives you cause for concern, then certainly you may want to pick up the phone and give us a call. But in and of itself, just carrying in a belt holster or shoulder holster doesn't restrict anybody from visiting city facilities, except on a couple of different occasions. You can't go into a school, for example, with a handgun. You can't show up at a polling location with a handgun. You can't go into a court of law with a handgun. Now, government can restrict entrance into a government meeting, provided that we post notice. And you'll notice that in January, we'll have 2 notice signs that will be outside the city council chambers, for example, in both English and Spanish, letting people know that carrying a handgun inside the meeting while the meeting is going on is prohibited. And so that will be the only place that we can prohibit that use. The use of other city facilities is not restricted under law, and nor is the government allowed to do that. So, that will be the big distinct difference that you'll see there. Only whereas before, the city, for example, has restricted entrance to the entire building where that meeting is held, we'll no longer be able to do that. We can not only restrict it from that very room where the meeting is taking place, and that's when it's going on. Otherwise, they could go in concealed carry or open carry in that room if they want to see it on a tour, for example, and it would be just fine. So I hope that this video answers a few questions that one might have out there, and really it was designed to kind of educate both citizens as well as city employees as to what we can expect and what we think is going to happen with the new open carry law in January. I think, to reiterate, let's don't panic. There should be no reason for widespread concern about this. I think the novelty of carrying in the open, quite frankly, will wear off after a while, and people will quit doing that if they do it at all. We know that a number of concealed handgun license carriers now currently don't all carry concealed. Many of them just leave the weapon in the car, or they have that license if they want to do it on occasion. So again, just to reiterate, no reason for concern that we see here at the Lewisville Police Department, no reason to panic. There should be no real reason for city employees to get overly concerned about seeing somebody carrying in the open if they do see that. If you have specific concerns or questions that you want to discuss with me, feel free to reach out to me. My number is 972-219-3611, or you can send me an email at wkerbow, that's W-K-E-R-B as in boy, O-W, at cityoflewisville.com. We'll try to address those concerns as soon as possible. Thank you for your attention and have a great day.